Okay, people, it's Jumoke Davis and Joe Walkowski. We are live on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and we're talking NBA playoffs. We got two games for you. Two games. Last night, the Houston Rockets. We have a problem with Houston, Joel, because the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by Chris Paul, who scored eight of the Thunder's final 12 points to force a game seven, 28 points total. What are your thoughts on that big game yesterday? And was it a bigger game for Oklahoma City, or was it a meltdown by Westbrook and Harden and the Houston Rockets?
Come on, Jumoke, you're asking me questions, but you definitely know the answer. If you watch the NBA for these past 5 years, you know the answer. That was absolutely a Houston Rockets meltdown, and I know it was. We can't help who we are. You know, we don't choose our sexual orientation, our race, our gender, and for whatever reason, I love James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and they kick me in the teeth every NBA postseason. They're going to go down as punchlines. I've talked on this podcast about how their place in history doesn't matter to anyone outside of the NBA intelligentsia, and they continue to let me down, and here we are on the precipice. We talk about, is the world ending? Well, we have Harden versus Chris Paul in a game seven. If one of them wins, the world ending.
And I tell you what, I mean, I was just amazed at how quickly Russell Westbrook melted down. I mean, he shot the air ball with just under a minute and then had that crucial turnover right at the end of the game where they had a chance to tie it up or take the lead. I could not believe that Russell Westbrook, of all people, not only did he not step up, but if you watch James Harden on those last three possessions, I was just like, dude, if you are the leader of this team, you're calling for the ball. Instead, I felt like, well, one of them, he didn't play defense on Chris Paul driving to the lane. But the other two offensive plays, it just seems like all he wanted to do was to try to set picks for my man Russell Westbrook.
Is there a singular play that can point to and blame the Houston Rockets for in this series? Because my math, they should be up games to 0. The game the Oklahoma City Thunder have won has been handed to them on a platter. And, you know, I know we're having a little fun with the Rockets, but hats off to the point, the Lilliputian dream, Chris Paul, against my defender in the NBA. Robert, and he navigated those switches, got a bigger defender, and then the best perimeter defender this side of Kawhi Leonard on him by twice. Wonderful to see.
I'm just amazed, and I do enjoy Chris Paul. He had on the Florida A&M Rattler shirt yesterday. You know, that's what he was rocking before the game, still supporting the HBCUs. 15 of his team high 28 points were in the fourth quarter. And you can just tell, I mean, we both talked about when we did our NBA playoffs preview that this was the best series we want to see. These two teams going at it. And with every game, the stakes keep rising higher and higher and higher. And same for the emotion. Same for the emotion from these two teams. And I'm so excited for game seven, but we're going to save some of that. We're going to save some of that for Just for Sport podcast.
Yeah, there's a series tonight, no one comes through in the clutch, wherever it cowers from a big moment. There's the other side of the coin. You don't have a spotlight on you. This is the first time you're ever going to be national media attention. And if you're a score first guard, you're taking that moment and you're running with it all over the rounds. What a series. Denver, Utah is what we're talking about. God,
yeah, no.
Basketball.
So the funny thing is, I said that the Rockets Thunder would go 7 games. You said 6. But tonight, we have a game 7 between the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz. You said it would go 7, and I said 6 Denver. And I don't think either one of us expected. We knew that Donovan Mitchell was going to show up. We know Nikola Jokic was going to be the Joker. Did you see this anywhere out of Jamal Murray.
Well, you know what?
50-point games in one series, right up there with Michael Jordan.
Yeah, and maybe this degree is unprecedented, and I would never expect Jamal Murray to do a more durable Steph Curry impression. Hats off to him for that. Steph Curry with some muscle on him getting to the hoop. However, you know, even though he's only he's never averaged 20 per game in a season, he did have an excellent postseason last year against the Blazers. And that might be because the Blazers don't defend anyone. Like, if we played the Blazers, we would put up 100 piece, you and I. And I think it might be a similar situation. I mean, he's a great player. He's showing he's up to this moment. And good luck making an all-star game in the West still. I don't know how you're jumping Dame and Russ and Harden and Steph and Clay and Shea. There's a huge pantheon in front of him, and it's great he's using this moment to make a name for himself, because I don't see when he'll get that opportunity otherwise.
He scored 142 points in 3 games. If this was Jamal Murray's coming out party, even after game 1, when Donovan Mitchell scores 57, and then Jamal Murray has a little NBA bubble video where he's spying on Donovan Mitchell sitting at a table laughing like, yo, that dude just dropped 57 on us. And Jamal Murray's doing the same thing. Let's look at some betting lines. I mean, I don't know how you even bet this.
Well, I do know how you bet this, Jumoke, because this series was clearly going 7 games. So I talked to the money man himself, Slam and Sam Kotler. You know, we have a little fun with our wagers. We team up. So when the Nuggets were down 3-1, I said, hey, I know this is a long shot. I know this sounds crazy, but I want you to put a few shekels down on the Denver Nuggets to win the series for me at 11-1 odds. He forgot to place the bet. And when you when you ask me, you're on this series, that is how you're on this series. The team's going to come back when they're at 11-1 odds.
Sam, we're going to have to get on Sam on that. I didn't know that he didn't make the bet. That's unfortunate.
I love the Props Network. I love the people behind the Props Network who have championed us and put us in a position to succeed. But me less like that means I'm going to grind your gears and bust your balls about not placing this Nuggets wager for the rest of my life. And we know the Nuggets are going to win tonight because they didn't place that bet.
I cannot believe he didn't place the bet. But what I am going to do for Sam right now is, yes, you're watching live on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook on the Props Network. We're going to do a nice little read. Before you bet at your favorite online sportsbook this season, you need to check out thepropsnetwork.com. Why? Because the Props Network will tell you everything you need to know about sportsbook promos, where to score free bets, and all the options for legal betting in your state. Your state. Plus, the Props Network has live odds comparison for NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball. So you can take every bet knowing that you've got the best value available. That's why the PropsNetwork.com is a must for any U.S. betting fan. Remember, though, you got to be 21 and over to bet. And do you or someone you know have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER today. Yeah, so who are you putting your money on tonight?
The Props Network, they have the best gambling advice in the entire industry. Just remember to put your money on it.
You got to remember to put your money on it. All right, Utah Jazz, over under 217.5 versus the Denver Nuggets. You going over or under? You can get the over at -108, under at -113.
That's a very low over for this series. Haven't every total for these games, like, you look at how many points the Nuggets score and you just kind of think, are Alex English and Kiki Vandeweghe out there tonight? There's a lot of points being scored.
Okay, how about let's look at player props. Now, Donovan Mitchell, you can get at +112, over under 33.5 points for tonight's game.
I'll go over on that just because they don't have another shot creator, and he's going to be carrying the offense. And Donovan Mitchell, he absolutely has that gear where he tries to do a little bit too much sometimes. So, yeah, there's going to be a trip to Kobe Bryant, to put it euphemistically.
At Jamal Murray, as we talked about, you can take the over at 30.5 at minus 132 or the under at 30.5 at plus 105.
Oh, hold on. We have to pause the pod while I bet that under. Props to Jamal Murray. He's been awesome this entire time. However, it's kind of silly to think that Utah and Quinn Snyder won't send a double team his way. It's not like it's a different roster. Like there's other things that can really hurt you on the Denver team. And, you know, I think they can just go to other directions. And like it could be in their best interest to just use Jamal Murray as a bit of a decoy to win the game.
So this is a first for me, Joel, that I've ever seen this. You have more experience with actually putting your money on the line here. But I have noticed they have 3 different options for points on DraftKings, because if you want Jamal Murray at over 49.5 at plus 750 or under 49.5 at minus 2,000, what are you taking for Jamal Murray?
You want him to have the I'm betting the under. There's a little bit of juice there, and I think it says something about just how unique this stretch has been. But come on, is Jamal Murray the greatest player in the history of the sport? Probably not. So go the other way. Do a big multiplier. No one will get burned that way.
I am amazed that you've got multiple options here for how many they'll score. You've got Donovan Mitchell again at 39.5 and at 49.5. You can get him at the over at 49.5 at plus 675 or the under at minus 1430. I actually think both Donovan and Murray will go under in this game tonight. And as you kind of talked about, maybe not so much a decoy. I think this is like a all hands on deck. You're going to have the Joker, Jeremy Grant, Mike Connolly, Joe Ingles, Rudy Gobert. Everybody's going to be in tune, is what we hope. That way you get a great game. That's what I think you'll see tonight.
And let's give some love to Jeremy Grant. I've loved the way he's played. It feels like every time I look at that series, he's hitting a contested 3 at a big moment for Denver. And yes, championship runs are keyed by players like reaching, entering a stratosphere of stardom we didn't think possible. But, you know, the team seed, you need role players to be A-plus role players. And Jeremy Grant, after a lot of travels, a lot of different teams, it's been a delight to see him get there.
Okay. I'm happy that we're here, right? I mean, this is what we all live for. Everybody wants to see a Game 7. Betting aside, who do you think wins tonight?
I think Denver wins. I think the way they've come back has probably rattled a Utah team that's not at full capacity. And I just think they've got a little bit closer to a full rotation.
I agree with that. I think they do have the better rotation, more talent on their team. The player who might be the sleeper that we haven't talked about a lot, who might be the guy who puts them over the top, Denver over the top, Michael Porter Jr. We talked at the start of the series that he was going to be kind of like the unsung hero or star that was, that was blooming, that was just starting to develop a game. And we haven't really seen that out of him. Maybe tonight, I know it's tough to say in the Game 7 you will see that, but in many ways, you feel like when you get to a Game 7, there are some kind of unique things that happen because you got two teams that are both going to be tense, nervous, wondering what's going to happen in the outcome. And you got a young player, Michael Porter Jr., who's like, I've never been in this situation. I'm just playing basketball. So maybe that's what you get tonight. But I'm looking forward to it. I know you're looking forward to it. We'll be chatting over text, and I'm sure you'll be putting in plenty of bets throughout the game.
Yeah, tonight I think it's kind of a slam dunk to go on the Raptors and then go on the Nuggets. Like, that's how I see it playing out, and I will probably go out on a limb at your advice and take the air on Jamal Murray as well. So I'll be putting one unit on each of those. I am compelled, if I didn't have my bad beat that, if you want to go back and listen to last week's, we can get into that. But if I was in a little bit better condition, I would be putting the house on the Toronto Raptors against the Boston Celtics with referee Tony Brothers on their side.
Which
The
I was really amazed at how bad the Toronto Raptors played in Game One. I just don't think that they were themselves. And tonight you will see a different game and you will see a different series. It's only you can get the Celtics at +1.5, over under at 218.5 at -112, and the money line +102 for the Celtics, -120 for the Raptors.
Yeah, and I think you really have to understand that the NBA is probably the best officiated of the four major sports. However, there are relationships between different teams and certain referees. In Tony Brothers, I read a stat when the last 9 times they've played he's reffed a Celtics game, they've on average failed to cover by about 9 points.
Wow.
And on the converse, Toronto is 7-0 against the spread in their last 7 games matched up with Tony Brothers. So the NBA know they can't have Donaghy out there, so they're doing the next best thing by calling a guy who sounds like ECW tag team.
See, that's how you start conspiracies, Joel. Those are great stats you gave, and that's exactly how someone at home watching this, maybe on the Props Network, is like, see, the NBA's fixed. They put Tony Brothers in there on purpose. That's exactly how it starts. Way to go, Joel.
Hey, it's okay, and we know the NBA is not fixed. Only the NFL is, specifically when the Detroit Lions play the Green Bay Packers. I've seen it happen far too many times. Trey Flowers did not commit an illegal hands to the face.
Player prop, Jason Tatum, over 25.5 points at -117. Are you taking the under at -105?
That's a very good line. If I gun to my head, I would go the under because there's slightly more juice in it. And I think we're going to see the buzzsaw. I think we're going to see the best of the Toronto Raptors. It was very uncharacteristic for them to come out as flat as they were. And I believe they shot 29% in the first half. I think they're a better basketball than that, and they're probably going to show it.
And the player that I think they really, really need to show it is Pascal Siakam, who, they threw every big man at Pascal. He's at -136 on the over, at 20.5, +112 on the under.
I'm going to go on the over for that. And while we're here, I know Pascal's struggled, and he probably should struggle given those matchups. Boston has the length and the switching ability to really give him trouble. The person I was really disheartened to see have such a bad game one was Marc Gasol. And I made that point here about the Celtics. They've signed all his international competition and had a terrible game while Vincent Poirier and his Cantor, they all the big men for the Celtics played everything. And I can't believe your boy called it that correctly last time.
Well, hopefully Fred VanVleet, if you saw that video on social media of his kids greeting him in the hotel hallway, maybe he'll have a bigger game. You can get him at over 18.5 points at -136, the under 18.5 points at +112. But he may also be another key is Fred VanVleet bouncing back, because when they've, in their sweep, I think Fred VanVleet in the first round was really the MVP of the series.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're seeing him audition to be the next starting point guard for my Detroit Pistons, and I expect him to really show up to the bat here tonight.
I wish we could get money. That's a futures bet. I think that everybody in Toronto would be looking at right now is, will his future have a Toronto Raptors jersey in it? Because every team is going to be backing up the Brinks truck to try to sign Fred VanVleet.
We got a comment here. Balkan countries are the best basketball school in Europe. No, Balkan, the best basketball school in the world. They are incredible. Their player development. The USA, even our college system is overrun by the AAU mentalities. Did Kyrie Irving learn anything at Duke? No. Balkan countries, they force their players to play a team style of ball. Even the bigs have amazing ball skills, and it's none of this ISO ball stuff we're seeing from the Americans.
Across the NBA, let's face it, the NBA has become ISO basketball. You don't even really see plays anymore until the last 2 minutes of the game if it's tight. And that's it. Everything else is just, spread the floor, go one-on-one, drive to the basket or kick. That's about it. That's what the NBA has come down to. And that's why, yes, Balkan countries do seem to teach the fundamentals more. Or if you hear a WNBA fan talk about it, they played the best fundamental basketball in the WNBA.
Yeah, and I think we're having another question. Americans, they have stopped underestimating European basketball players. And, the more I think about it, 2011 was such a watershed moment for the NBA. And I think Dirk's winning that title against LeBron and Wade in the prime of their careers kind of forever killed that stigma. And now we are seeing just a proliferation of really talented guys recruited in the league. And, there's a great brotherhood. I was very heartened to see the group photos of all the Balkan players that the players put out on social media. So, I think it's just a great brotherhood that's lifting the entire game.
Okay, here's the thing about the international players in European game. How was Luka Doncic not taken number one? If you look at the players that were taken ahead of him, DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley III, there's no doubt that Luka is the best player in that draft. Now, you could argue that Phoenix didn't maybe need that player if you want to talk about it from that perspective. But if you want to talk about pure talent, what you've seen out of him, Luka's number one. I actually put Trae Young too.
I would probably put DeAndre Ayton over, who's my least favorite player in the NBA right now. I count defense, but the Marvin Bagley thing was indefensible. He had his former coach. They have so many connections to Europe. A situation where Luka was going to thrive in their line. I think the Kings were that, and for them to pass on it for Marvin Bagley, kind of crazy to me. Man, Kings fans hate that dude too. They cannot stand Marvin Bagley. They are so pissed off he's trying to start a rap career before he started 70 NBA. We're getting another Jumoke. In your opinion,
who are the 5 best European players in the NBA in the last 3 years? Wow. Okay, let's see. Luka won. Well, you said last 3 years. I mean, last 5 years. So I guess we're going to say Nikola Jokic is the second best behind Luka. Number 3, oh boy.
Well, does Giannis count? Because
Giannis. Well, okay, Greek Freak. There you go. That's 3. I was actually thinking. Had Sabonis in my head and trying to figure out where I put him.
Yeah, Sabonis, but the past 3 years thing is what puts a Rudy Gobert.
Right. That's what I'm trying to think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just colored. I mean, I love Rudy Gobert. I'm just living in New York City, and I can't leave my apartment because of coronavirus. So if anything, I'm a little bit compelled to underrank Rudy Gobert. I'm a pissed. I'll just be a homer. If I'm putting any Frenchman, I'm just going to put Sekou Doumbouya on there. Is that a good answer?
No. You cannot.
That's the comedy part.
No, I know that is. You're really funny. Okay, Giannis, Goran Dragic.
And Goran's
Marc Gasol. Pau Gasol. What am I talking about? Marc Gasol.
Yeah, Marc Gasol, third best player on the championship just last season. So
Marc Gasol, Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh.
So here's the interesting thing. They're all big men outside of Luka, but Luka's tall too. Luka's at 6'9". So most of the top players are all big men.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But that's the beauty of these European basketball players. And the centers are so skilled. What we're trying to do in this country based on Kevin Durant, they've been doing over there based on Arvydas Sabonis for 20, 30 years longer. And I'm just going to talk to our guy shouting out at us, Bogdanovich. Love him, but I'm personally a boy on Bogdanovich.
Vucevic out of Orlando. No, you can't go with him. So I'm saying if you want to say Giannis won, Giannis, then
Jokic.
Luka. No, I say Giannis, Luka, Jokic, Vucevic, Marc Gasol. There's your five.
All right, there you go. And Bogdan Bogdanovic, maybe not on this team, but if there was any NBA player who was going to make it on the Harlem Globetrotters, he would be my first pick. Guy is made for it.
And if you say top 10, then you can say Rudy Gobert. Bogdanovic still falls down on the list because I would say if you said over the last 3 years, you still have to add Pau Gasol in there. He belongs on that list. Kristaps Porzingis. So there's your bottom five. And I hate to say it, but I feel like he's had a really long career out of Spain. He's a nice little young point guard that I actually got to meet back in 2008 when I was like, who is this kid that the entire stadium is cheering for him? And I have no idea who he is. Can you guess who I'm talking about, Joel?
Are you Pretty Ricky?
Pretty
17-year-old?
Ricky Rubio, right? Isn't he like no one pays attention to him as if he's not a European basketball player who's had a long career?
Yeah,
and he's actually a pretty good point guard.
And a really good point guard, especially considering Ricky Rubio had some pretty major injuries at the beginning of his career, overcame, and like he's played for some pretty obscure franchises. The majority of his career has been in Minneapolis and then Phoenix, franchises that don't get a lot of attention, but I've really enjoyed watching him grow, and like the role he played for the Suns in their failed run to the 8th seed while looking exactly like WWE superstar Seth Rollins was one of my favorite bubble stories of the year.
And it's funny because I thought maybe the Wizards, when I worked for the team, that, you know, I didn't know, I wasn't in the draft room. I was in a different department, the video department, but I thought maybe Ricky Rubio would come to the Wizards, but they already had Arenas and they traded the number 5 pick away in that draft to get Randy Foye and Mike Miller. So that ended that ended the chance of getting Ricky Rubio. But, you know, he was pretty amazing. Do you agree the Euro League is the second best league in the world in basketball?
No doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah. You put
Barcelona
you could
stay out of Australia. You could at least have 2 players in Ben Simmons and Steven Adams. Let's go Pitt. But outside of that, no, it's the Euro League is the next best league.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you can see that like Luka is coming, like, you know, it was actually harder to score in Europe, and he's right. They just play like a more team focused like style of basketball. And like we talk about like European success, how about Ricky Rubio on the 2008 Spanish national team? You know, that was a great U.S. roster, and a Spain team with Rubio, the brothers, Rudy Fernandez,
yep.
And they pushed the U.S. to their limit. Like, that's Kobe's greatest moment, and Ricky was a part of it as a 17-year-old. That's an amazing feat.
Yeah. And I also think that, you know, as you pointed out in the in the chat, they pointed out, I just don't think of Giannis as being a European basketball player, but he is. He's a European basketball player. And, you know, Joel Embiid, technically, he is a foreign player. Serge Ibaka. We can go down the list. I think if you look at where the NBA is in general, there are way more international players than there have ever been in the league at the number of 108.
Yeah, absolutely. And like to answer, is Giannis European? You know, I don't have the understanding of their immigration policies and how those individuals feel. Like that's honestly a question for Giannis and Joel to answer rather than Joel. And my boy here, we're getting a lot of comments about the Real Madrid basketball team, and like they had Luka Doncic, and like the whole Real Madrid corporation is amazing at developing talent. I started watching soccer in quarantine. I loved La Liga, and I enjoyed the Real Madrid backups, actually. Vinicius Jr. is my favorite footballer in the entire world. He's 17 years old, and he's got like football's Russell Westbrook written all over him.
It was amazing to go to Barcelona and practice at their facility, Real Madrid, and just to see, because like, could you imagine, think about that, right? Like they have a soccer team, they've got basketball teams, they have an overall league. Could you imagine the Detroit Lions and Detroit Pistons, you know, being in the same organization, both having the same name, or, you know, Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets and the Islanders and the, you know, everybody falling under one team name. Although I know there are owners that kind of have that, but not where it's like Real Madrid is one team name.
Yeah, a little bit, but I will say maybe not in name, but I think our bylaws are a little bit stricter because everything needs to be copyrighted so we can maximize the capitalization of it. But I think the New Orleans Saints / Pelicans have a similar arrangement. Like the team shared a medical staff up until 2 years ago, and I think that's a little problematic to me. So it just hasn't worked over here, but we also get the athletes a little bit later in life. So it's more probably a cultural difference why it can't thrive here.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to wrap here on our live stream on the Props Network. We appreciate everybody watching us and love your questions. Thank you for your questions about Euro basketball. This has been fun, Joel.
Yeah, and hey, if you're watching this actually lives as a podcast. We are for the Props Network. You can download us talking NBA every Tuesday under the Just for Sport name. And I actually have a new talk show coming out on September 9th. Title maybe Walk On. We're discussing it, but you know, we'll see it. Oh, come on. Danny Avdia? Yeah, I know. The Detroit Pistons, we were all over them. I was with my very good Pistons fan, Nate, as we watched the lottery, and he happens to be a Jewish man, and he was very disappointed when we got the 7th pick.
Thank you very much for joining us on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, the Props Network. We'll have more live content for you coming up on the NBA playoffs. And maybe we'll talk some tennis and other sports as we get into it. Joel, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody watching, and we'll see you next time.
All right.